Welcome, y'all.
Hey, Sherri.
Hey, Terry.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I did my little. So, I have to do that little clapper beforehand, and the listeners don't know what I'm talking about, but I have one of those like little movie set clappers. And that's so the guy who does my audio video work, thanks, Antonio, he can line it up because it's two separate files and the clapper lines it up for him. And then I did my clapper just now and the whole thing just kind of fell apart. So got to get that fixed.
Yeah.
How are you?
I am doing pretty good. I'm a little traumatized from researching this story.
Man, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You want to just jump into it?
Well, let's see if we got any business. Do we have anything coming up? Awards?
We did not win the Women in Podcasting Award.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Hey, we got
But
how
you know
many
what?
awards can we get nominated for a year? That's our new goal.
That's it. I'm going to make a chart on the wall. And we've been nominated 5 or 6 times this year. And then next year we're going to shoot for 10 times.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. I just want to win one time so I can say, they love me. They really love me. All right. So I have had someone send me a message, which I love, y'all. And we're getting comments on YouTube and things like that. If y'all send me a message through Buzzsprout or Spotify, I have not figured out how to answer you yet. And I appreciate you sending the messages. Oh, someone did send a message that in one of the recent episodes, we made people from the West Bank sound like they were idiots. And she said, I love y'all, but that was unnecessary. And I'm so sorry. We just tend to laugh at ourselves from Louisiana, not just the West Bank.
If it helps. The people that were saying that were from California, so.
Yes, but they live in New Orleans.
They do live in New Orleans.
Yes. So a gentleman named Evan, I can't remember if I said this last time or not, sent me an email with a link to what would be a solution to my gnat problem. Oh. He's like, I heard you talking about the gnats and I got these things at Sam's, as Harold is waving around his face over there. There must be a gnat by you. No. Okay. Harold's oh, there's one by me. Harold's camera switching for us. Thank you, Harold. And I don't think there's any other business.
Okay. All good then. Then I guess we'll get started.
Take it away.
Okay. So normally I try to bring in a holiday themed murder.
Because this is good. Well,
this is about Thanksgiving.
Yes, this is going to come out about Thanksgiving.
And they were all boring because almost every Thanksgiving murder is some man comes in and kills his whole family. I didn't find women killing their whole family for Thanksgiving. And that makes more sense to me because it's a stressful holiday for women. Men just get to get fat and watch football.
I'm kind of on the men's side of that. I kind of just eat and watch football. No, but women typically poison men. We found, over the length of time we've been doing this. That's not always the case, but typically. So Thanksgiving would be a perfect time for
to get rid
a woman
of
to kill her
that's...
whole family because she's cooking all the food.
And I figured I'd come across one. I didn't.
Nothing. All right.
The only Thanksgiving murders I'd found we'd already done and they weren't exactly Thanksgiving. And I was looking for a woman to, because that would change it up. It's not just a guy coming in and shooting everybody when he had no reason to shoot everybody.
Well, Stump does like a lady that kills people. So
yeah, let's take it out of the norm.
Yeah.
But while I was looking at this, I found this case and oh my God, I'd never heard of it. And it is the worst case I've ever seen.
Hit me.
Okay, we're going to start with, it's got every trigger warning except for animals involved.
This is not suitable for all listeners.
It's all about children.
Oh.
And that's normally, I stay away from it. And I almost stayed away from it. Then I was like, we didn't know about this. And you and I should have been very aware of this because of our ages.
All right.
Okay. So we're gonna start with a cop on this. Okay. We're gonna tell this story in a little choppy
kind of way.
Format.
Just go around, whatever we need to do.
So Gary Sweet, he was born 59-ish and up in the Dallas area. He grew up in Texas, the son of a milkman and a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that didn't figure into the story. I just thought it was so freaking sweet.
It is sweet.
Y'all,
and his name is Swede or Sweet?
Gary Sweet.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom was a stay-at-home mom and his dad was a milkman.
Yeah.
Today, his dad would be out making children because that's what they say about,
about the milkman.
Your dad was the milkman.
And his dad worked for the same dairy driving milk for his whole life. I mean, these are like salt of the earth, perfect
people,
1950s, 1960s.
You're going to tell me something bad, though.
No, not from them.
All right.
Just, you don't see anything that sweet anymore.
No.
Okay. So Gary did all the athletics, football, basketball, baseball.
Yes.
But he kind of wanted to be a professional kickboxer.
All right.
Okay.
What time frame is this?
So he was born in 59. He was graduating high school in the later 70s.
All right. So he wanted to be a kickboxer.
Yeah. I'm guessing maybe we were starting to see some Bruce Lee.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I know definitely in the early 80s, Bruce Lee was a big thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But instead, he got married at 19 and had a child at 21.
Yikes.
So kickboxing career out the window.
Yes.
Because there's work to do. People got to be fed.
Yep.
Okay. So he went to work for the rail yard. His job paid well and had benefits.
Good job.
Yeah.
And he's 19. I mean,
well, 19,
21.
21. Yeah. Young guy, and he's got health care, retirement.
You kind of did all that back then. That's what you did.
And
you didn't take a year off to go find yourself.
You got married at 19 regularly.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to college, you got married at 22, 23.
Yeah.
It was not this, I'm going to be 35 before I find my first spouse.
Nope.
Okay. So in 1983, he gets laid off.
Oh.
Okay. And this is kind of common around here. A lot of jobs deep in the South that are based on oil. You get peaks and valleys.
Right.
And so a lot of people in these fields have to take unemployment for 3 months a year even.
Until the job picks back up.
So he got laid off. He took his unemployment. He had to you have to put in so many applications to keep your unemployment benefits.
Right.
One of those applications was with the Garland, Texas Police Department.
Okay.
They liked him.
Amen.
So he went ahead and took the test. There were 15 positions open. 300 candidates, and he made it.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's going to be a popo.
He's going to be a popo. And then whenever the job called him to offer him his position back, he said, hang on. He went and prayed. He was like, Lord, I want to do what you'd want me to do.
Tell me what to do.
Called the boss back at the rail yard and says, I'm going to have to stick with the pay cut.
Wow.
Because the police didn't make as much as that government.
Obviously, yeah.
Because
the railroad makes more.
Railroad is part government.
Yeah.
And part union is a weird thing. So you make bank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So fast forward to 2000. He's a detective in the CIU, Criminal Investigation Unit at Garland, Texas. Stayed with, this is 83 to 2000.
That's all. Yeah.
Stayed with the same department.
17 years.
Yeah, he's almost ready to retire at this point.
Yeah.
Or have the capability of retiring. Right. Okay. So he's sitting at his desk and the phones start ringing. And he's about the only one in the room. Phones, whenever you've got a place where there's a department that can answer the phone.
Yeah.
Sometimes it either goes through numerically or alphabetically from desk to desk to desk. So he's sitting there with the last name Sweet with his hand on the phone, waiting for it to bounce through the office.
Yeah, to his desk.
Yeah. And so he answers it, and it's a call from Fort Worth Police Detective Diane Teft. She had been in touch with a sex offender in Lebanon, Ohio at the Warren Correctional Center regarding someone he was housed with.
All right.
Okay, so Jeffrey Sonny Cobb had been housed with David Elliott Penton for 3 years. Have you ever heard that name?
Nope.
I mean, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
And I had never heard this name.
And this guy's in Iowa? Is that what
Ohio.
you said? Ohio. Ohio State.
The Ohio State. Yeah. And he's at the Warren Correctional Center, which is like their Angola.
And his cellie is this dude.
Jeffrey Sunnycap. Yeah. And so they're like a lot of prisons, all of the sex offenders are segregated for their own safety.
Right.
But obviously, even though Jeffrey was no choir boy, David disgusted him.
Wow.
And so Jeffrey started reaching out to police departments saying, hey, he's in here for one. He's got more bodies on him.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and Jeffrey was a douche canoe. I mean, he was a horrible human being.
Takes one to know one.
Mm-hmm. So David was in prison for kidnapping, raping, and murdering a little girl.
Jesus.
But while he was in prison, he bragged about how many more he had done.
Stupid criminals.
Yeah. And he would tell other offenders how to not get caught.
As he sits from jail.
Because he knew he made a mistake on this final one. He told him how to hide trophies. He would tell him, hide it in the insulation in the attic.
Wow. How
disgusting.
He must not have foam spray insulation.
No. And one of the names he talked about was Roxanne Reyes.
All right.
This case had always bothered Detective Sweet.
So Sweet knew about Roxanne.
Yes. He did not work her case, but he was...
So I'm assuming even though he's in jail or prison in Ohio, he's done some crimes in Texas.
That's what it's looking like.
Okay.
This is kind of the beginning of them being aware.
Okay.
So, Sweets was, I think, just patrol at the time that the Reyes case happened.
Oh, okay. Not a detective.
Not a detective. He was not called on to work this case, but through the years, because this was unsolved, whenever he would go into this one particular part, he would pass her case. And he'd looked at it a few times and kind of looked into it, but you can't do a case just because you want to. You have to have permission. So he's totally interested in this case. And it's been gnawing at him. In this case, Roxanne Reyes was a 4-year-old.
Oh.
She could have been 3 because sources differ on her age. And she was abducted from picking wildflowers behind her mother's apartment while being babysat.
Wow.
I'm not going to get into the particulars of how things were found, how they know what happened, when it happened overly much.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why at the end.
Okay.
Her body, she was abducted November 3rd, 1987. And her body was found May 19th, 1988.
Wow.
So that's over 6 months.
So there was,
in a vacant lot located in Murphy, Texas, which was quite a distance away.
I'm assuming they couldn't identify her immediately after all that amount of time.
Pretty quickly.
Okay.
For this one. A playmate actually saw Reyes leave with him. The man had promised ice cream and candy. And this is
It's a 4-year-old child. Of course they're going to.
Yes. Yeah. And this was just right before we started giving a shit what our kids were doing.
Yeah.
Because, Tammy and I are not shocked by 4-year-old picking flowers in a field behind the apartment.
Today I am, but not back then.
By 1990, we kind of started having this grasp of, hey, maybe we should be able to see our children.
Yeah. Well, the babysitter shouldn't have let her. But anyway, whatever.
But nobody at the time was even mad at the babysitter.
Right.
Because it was so normal to let 4 and 5, I was telling Thomas with my 3-year-old granddaughter. It's like when I was her age, I was out in the backyard playing. Just playing at 3 without supervision. If I got hurt, oh, well, we'll make another.
Yeah.
There was kind of... that was kind of normal for the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
We read stories in here when we do these old ones. If there's a child predator, they're finding 2-year-olds sitting in their yard alone.
Yeah.
So it's a different world. It's a different time. Okay. We think that because Penton had been around the apartment complex for a little bit, that Reyes might have thought he was one of her dad's friends.
All right.
And you know how it gets in apartment complexes when everybody's got little kids. You're kind of a almost family-like. Everybody, especially back then, everybody's looking out for each other's kids.
Right.
Kids are told to obey the others. Okay.
That's when one parent could spank another parent's kid.
Oh, yeah. Those were great times.
I'm sure some of our listeners remember those days.
Yeah. Okay. And so there were two other names that Jeffrey gave to Detective Sweet. Christy Meeks and Christy Proctor.
I'm trying to, I'm just silent because I'm trying to search my data bank. I don't know those names either.
There is no way that we shouldn't.
Christy, what was her name?
Meeks and Christy Proctor.
Okay. Meeks sounds a little familiar to me.
A little bit. So Christy Lynn Meeks was 5 and was abducted from outside her mother's apartment complex in Mesquite, Texas on January 19th, 1985. That's the thing. 85, I was really aware of the world around me. I mean, I was grown.
I think by that point, my mom had put the fear of God in, don't talk to strangers. Don't. She was,
So she was playing hide and seek with her older brother and some friends. And they witnessed the man take her off.
Wow.
And one of those poor little kids was trying to get her not to go with him. Because one of those kids had been told, don't take cake. Don't take candy from strangers.
Don't go help anybody find their puppy.
It was again another one of those, I've got goodies for you in my vehicle.
Yeah. The pedo van.
On April 3rd, 1985, some fishermen thought they saw a large bird in Deer Haven Cove on Lake Texoma, which is up near the Oklahoma border with Texas. It was not a bird.
Ugh.
It was a child. Initially, the medical examiner sent out on teletype that this was the body of a boy, even though it was wearing panties, a rainbow shirt, and Cabbage Patch doll tennis shoes. I am so mad at him because it took an extra 3 weeks for the family to know that their child had been found. Just because of
the initial
report and saying it. Why would you?
Did he not do a medical examination? And
eventually he found out it was a girl.
Okay. Maybe don't say anything until you look at that area of the body.
And not to be overly gross, but predation by fish, anything smaller is gone. So fingers are often gone, noses are gone.
Right.
I'm assuming penises are gone.
Oh, okay. So he could have thought that, okay.
He might have just assumed.
I'll give him the benefit of
if you had no external genitalia, you think the clothes would give you a better clue.
Yeah, something.
Or don't put a gender in that teletype.
Yeah.
Say child.
Yeah.
That would have saved weeks.
Wow.
And I realized they'd already been months, but every day that you don't know what happened to your kid is a nightmare.
Torture.
Okay. And on February 19th, 1986. So this is
clicking along.
Christy Diane Proctor, who was 9, went missing from North Dallas. She was walking from her apartment to a friend's house nearby.
I'm noticing that all of these are happening in apartments. So, all right.
Stick on that one.
Okay.
She was probably abducted while walking, probably with the same MO of, hey, I'll give you a ride and I've got donuts or I've got some ice cream. And, a poor kid.
Right.
They're not getting treats like kids in general didn't get treats like that very often. And her remains so she disappeared in 86 and her remains were found under a mattress in a field in Plano, Texas.
Wow.
In April of 1988.
Wow. Well, there couldn't have been much remains left after that amount of time.
No.
2 years? No.
2 and change. It was getting close to 3.
Wow.
No, I'm sorry. It was 1 and change, almost 2. February 86 to April 88. So it was a little over 2 years. That. And I want you to notice that his dumping grounds are always in another county than where he picked them up.
Yeah.
And in Texas, he would drive 100, 150, 200 miles away from where he took them before he dumped them.
Wow.
In Texas, a distance, nothing is within 50 miles of anything.
Right.
Like,
right.
I've got family and friends that live there, and they drive 30 minutes to go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to drive 30 minutes to go to the grocery store, I'd garden. It's not going to happen.
Grow your shit.
Yeah, because but it's a big state.
Yeah.
There's a lot of distance between.
I think maybe if I had to speculate, he was hoping that the distance would lengthen the time once the body was discovered to even link it back to where she lived.
Absolutely. And thinking about, although transportation had moved ahead in this time period, late 80s, communication had not. Anything that was going on county to county, parish to parish had to be done by teletype.
Right.
So we have cars that will go hundreds of miles on the single tank of gas, but we don't have communication that will.
We're not sharing information quickly.
Yeah. And it's not like some people are like, those dead gum police, they didn't want to share. They shared, but it's coming in on teletype. It goes up on the bulletin board.
Yeah.
If the body doesn't get found for 6 months, how many other teletypes have come in?
Right.
There's no computer way to categorize and look at things and keep things fresh. Okay. So one case is in Detective Sweet's jurisdiction. Reyes, Roxanne.
Right.
Is in his jurisdiction. The other 2 were close by in Texas terms.
Yeah.
There was another case during this time on February 12th, 1986. So kind of
around that same
time, 10-year-old Tiffany Ibarra was walking to Bodie Elementary School in Dallas, Texas. She was abducted by a white guy in a van.
Pedo van.
He made her call her mom and tell her mom that she had been kidnapped.
Oh my God. What? Like, did he pull over at a payphone or something?
No, he had one of those old bag style cell phones.
Wow. He must have been rich.
And but he let her go.
Oh, well, that's good.
He said, don't ever get into a vehicle with anybody else. And I'm always like, I keep wondering, was he just doing it because like the power over life and death gave him the jollies? Like, why did he let her go?
Quite possibly. Or he might have felt like he was about to be caught.
Okay, let me tell you, she's the oldest one of this group also.
Yeah.
That may be part of it. She may not have.
Did it, yeah.
He may have gotten her in and said, oh, you're 10, double digits. I don't want you.
Yeah.
That may have been part of it. And that's a horrible thought that I even have.
She was too old. Ugh.
Okay. So later under hypnosis, she did identify him. She gave a description of the van, which is crazy. Could y'all even imagine us using hypnosis in criminal cases anymore?
They won't let you. You can't use it in court. It's not admissible. Yeah,
and you couldn't then. But what they could do was take your hypnosis testimony and invest. It wasn't considered like the fruit of the poisonous tree.
Right.
You could bounce off
of that. That's
evidence.
like a starting point for you.
But it wouldn't itself be
enough to take
enough to go to court. Okay, so Proctor and Ibarra were definitely linked by authorities. So the one that got away, and the one that spent the longest
Proctor,
time.
Yes.
Yeah. The rest were supposition. The other 2 cases in the area were supposition. Meeks and Reyes. Yeah. Okay, so Fort Worth PD sets up this call between Sweets and this guy that wrote them a letter from prison.
All right.
Actually, she set up a call with Sweets, several of his detectives, some detectives from other areas, because they're kind of in the Dallas-Fort Worth greater area. So everybody descends.
So they brought officers or detectives
Mm-hmm.
from other cases that were okay. So those just weren't just random.
These were not random.
Okay.
These were things that old David had told Jeff, I did this one. I did that one. And so, you know, Sweets shows up to Fort Worth with some other Garland PD people. There were some other cops there. And Jeff calls in. You get 10 minutes on a prison phone call.
Right.
Max. It doesn't matter if you're talking to cops. And so they put it on speakerphone. Everybody's taking notes.
Yeah.
The original detective from Fort Worth took notes on her case and then kind of turned the conversation over to other people. Well, Sweet is asking him, hey, you know, tell me about Reyes.
Yeah.
Because I told you, Sweet has been looking at this off and on.
So he's familiar with, like, this would be, you might know something that wasn't publicized in the media.
Exactly. And he starts out with knowing things that would be rare to pull up, but they were publicized. And then they get onto some details that only the murderer and the investigators know. Like, the investigators didn't give a description of her clothing. Because he started with some obscure facts, like where she was found, what it looked like, that kind of thing. And after 15 years, who's going to remember reading that in the newspaper?
Right.
This is this is in 2000 at this point.
Yeah, we're not on the internet very much. Yeah.
There's no con that's been in jail for a time that's on the internet at that point.
Yeah.
And so that was already, but whenever they got to the close, he was like, that's it. I know this guy knows something.
This is true. Yeah.
So it timed out after 10 minutes. Jeff sets up for him to call at his own station in Garland about this case. They get a few more phone calls, but Sweets finds out how bad he is. That Jeff guy was in jail for a few rapes, and he bought an 8-year-old with a carton of cigarettes and a case of beer.
Wow.
And even made a marriage certificate for her.
What? 8? What, who would even buy that at
8?
Did she look like she was 16?
No, he bought himself an 8-year-old miniature bride.
Wow.
And so I have Sweet thinking.
So if this dude is that bad and he is disgusted by
Penton,
then he must have done some shit and talked about it. Yeah.
But Sweet is also like, hey, it's not like I can take this guy's word on anything.
Right.
Because he is.
If we put him on the stand, the defense is gonna,
And see, this is the part about police work I could never do. To be a good cop, you have to get buddy with these guys and act like the way they think is okay. Just to keep them talking.
Yeah.
I would be in the penitentiary.
I would be angry.
I would commit violence against somebody like this, like rapidly and without any thought.
If you were there with your partner, y'all played good cop, bad cop, you would be the bad cop.
I would be the bad cop and my partner would be cuffing me by. If I found out a man had sex with an 8-year-old and he's sitting in front of me.
Yes. And
he's not going to live. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm right in that. Don't get me wrong. I know that I'm wrong in wanting to do that kind of justice, but I also know that I would get so enraged that I would do that red vision thing, ears going. It would be over. There would be no thought.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not a cop, ladies and gentlemen. That and probably 20 other things.
Yeah, there's a lot for me.
Okay. So he has to, Sweet has to investigate a lot more. Like he knew he was going to have to hit a certain standard.
Yeah.
But now he's going to have to exceed that standard because his source is so gross. Okay. And so let's go back to David Elliott Penton.
All right.
And it's rare for me to hate a David. So David was born in 1958.
Okay. He's about 10 years older than me.
Yeah. He's right. He's right at that middle point between us and our parents.
Yeah.
In some sources, I've seen that he was an only child. In other sources, I see he has a sister. So what I'm thinking is that was a stepsister.
Okay.
Okay. I think mom may have remarried at some point, but his dad skipped out. That's like step one of what we've seen happens with serial killers.
Mhm.
There's no dad. And
how many boxes is he going to check during this process you're about to tell me about?
And then I've seen that he had a severe head injury as a teenager and was in a coma. There it is, box 2. That's it.
Yes.
That and, just a couple of other little odds and
he
ends here and
probably
there.
wet the bed.
He probably did all that. But I don't buy the wet the bed part. I don't even buy the burning shit. But maybe it's because I'm a country kid and it was easy to set things on fire and nothing would get tore up.
I buy the animal torture.
The animal torture?
Yeah, he probably did that.
He probably did that, but we don't see that.
We don't know all that.
Because like I said, nobody knows crap about this guy.
Yeah.
Which stuns me. Like, already, just what we know.
Yeah.
He should have been plastered on.
All over everything.
All over there, everything. Mm-hmm. Okay. So David joins the Army in 1977.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he does.
Yes.
Because he's a violent fucktard, and that's where they go. Okay, there are wonderful people in the Army, but if you have violence in you, and even, I don't know if Harold ran across this in the Navy, but I know David did in the Marine Corps. There were people who joined the Marine Corps hoping to kill somebody.
People. Yes. I doubt that was a Navy thing. He's shaking his head no. He says no.
My son never came across it, but he was like Harold down there with, working all the things that kept everything powered.
Right.
Okay. So he had a lot of personal drive. He was highly motivated, became an expert marksman. He was really doing well in the Army.
We're talking late 70s, though, too.
We are talking the 70s.
We did not really have a grasp on any mental health issues or anything like that. And a lot of guys went into the service, I think.
Yeah. And considering Nam just ended 4 years earlier, I think they might have been happy that anybody wanted to join.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So he was stationed primarily in Korea.
All right.
He visited a lot of hookers. While I believe he was married to somebody back at the States.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know why he didn't bring her.
Well.
Not a war zone.
Yeah.
But the other soldiers witnessed that he liked his prostitutes on the young side.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So you've already got, when you're dealing with a Southern white man, you're dealing with a world where the women are like Tammy and I. We're over 5'7", strong. We're solid human beings. Already moving to Koreans from that.
Yeah.
That is so much smaller than me.
Yeah.
That it's
I feel like maybe in their culture, the women are more subdued.
They are subdued.
And subservient.
But then whenever you take that already not looking like grown women of your
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And move it even younger.
Yeah.
You are definitely, I don't care if she was 15 and an American 15-year-old, a Caucasian 15-year-old looks mostly grown.
Yeah.
A 15-year-old Korean woman compared to what you think a 15-year-old looks like, she looks like she's 9.
Yeah.
It's a child.
Yeah.
Look.
Right.
Look, I am not saying anything other than.
He was in his, he was in his glory there.
Well, it creeped the other Army guys out.
Wow. Okay.
And I've known a lot of guys in the Army.
This dude's just creeping all the motherfuckers out.
Yeah. And later, there was a quote about this time. I'm not gonna lie, I was with a lot of prostitutes, and some of them could have been underage, he said. But I didn't fancy little kids like the cops say. I wasn't so much that I fancied the age as it was the cleanliness.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's a lot of diseases out there. Okay, can you come out with a string of cuss words right now? Because I don't even have the vocabulary.
Fuck him. He can eat a fucking bag of dicks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, he was also playing with...
What a piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean...
Fucking little kids because they don't have diseases. Wow. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, like And he's a normal sized guy. He's not like he's 5'6" or something like that. He's like 5'11".
Yeah.
Like an
average guy.
Average guy. Okay. He was playing around with coke and acid while he was in Korea, but it was the late 70s, early 80s. Even my sweet self was playing around with acid in the 80s.
I've never done acid.
I stayed away from coke because I was always too hyper to begin with. Like I could have probably run to the moon if I had done coke when I was 20. That was no.
That's hilarious.
But I did a little bit of acid, a little bit of shrooms, anything that would calm me down, notch it down a little bit. I played with. And so I'm not saying he was evil from that. I'm saying that if you're already mentally twisted, maybe cocaine and LSD are bad things for you.
Yeah.
Maybe they're bad for you anyway. Let me put that. Kids, don't do drugs. Okay. So he gets demoted from sergeant to specialist.
All right.
Because he lied about still being married. If you're married in the military, you get paid more. You get a better housing allowance.
So he said he was married, but he wasn't.
I think he was divorced.
Okay. And but he just kept on letting him. He just
kept on.
Paying him the. Yeah.
And then he comes back stateside and he is stationed at, drum roll please, can anybody guess what fucked up base he was stationed at? Fort Hood, Texas.
I was going to say it had to be in Texas.
Look, there are so many nasty cases that have Fort Hood links, women getting killed all the time. Okay, Virginia Beach, but I think that's just numbers.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things stationed at Virginia Beach. You get that many 20-year-old men in the same spot, something's going to pop off.
Some shit's going to go down. Yeah.
But Fort Hood, there's some things wrong. Okay. So, on November 23rd, 1984, which was my birthday, people.
Happy birthday. Not 84. You weren't born in 84.
I was not born in 84. No, I was already partying hard in 84. Okay, he is arrested. He was arrested for killing his 2-month-old son.
What?
He might have been 1 month old in some of the sources.
Was this from a Korean woman that... Oh, no, this was at Fort Hood.
Not from there, but I think he did marry another Asian woman.
Okay.
Shook the baby to death at 2 months old.
Jesus.
Maybe 1 month. It may have been. He pled guilty and received a 5-year sentence and was honorably freaking discharged.
No. You definitely wouldn't get that today.
My next line was WTF, Fort Hood.
Yes.
No one seemed to care about Michael James Penton. Let's say that again. Michael James Penton got to live for 48 weeks on this planet because of this douche canoe.
And he just got a little bit of time and a honorable discharge.
He got an honorable discharge.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Okay. And he was only left alone with this guy for a little while so mom could go to town and go to the grocery store. We're not talking that he was sitting there up all night with his kids, lost his crap. Okay,
Piece of shit.
He pleads guilty and they give him a 5-year sentence. And then he appeals. Again, WTF, he pled guilty. What does he get to appeal? He said, I did it.
And then he's like, oh, wait, no, I didn't.
No, I didn't. No. 5 years. That's too much.
No.
That's too much for killing my one and only son.
Yeah.
Okay. So they let him out on bond while he's appealing. And he takes off. Okay. So this was 1984. When did we say?
Roxanne, Christy.
Yeah.
I didn't write
Christy Meeks was kidnapped in January 85.
Wow. So while he's out on bond,
he runs away.
And this is when he is kidnapping and assaulting and killing all these little girls.
Yeah.
That man.
And I wonder
he should not have been let out.
No, he should not have been. Why are you going to let somebody out on an appeal when they pled guilty.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about a confession. Because
it's almost like they're like, oh, the baby didn't live very long, so you don't have to be in jail very long. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, that's literally my next thing, and is part of his hunting strategy that he told people about was hit poor kids.
Mm-hmm.
Hit kids in apartments, hit kids in trailer parks because nobody cares. And I'm wondering if, see, a specialist doesn't make that much money. A specialist in the Army.
Right.
So his son was from a poor family.
Mm-hmm.
His son was not, from what I gather, probably not fully white.
Okay.
And nobody cared about his son.
Yeah.
Not enough. I mean,
no, yeah, I agree.
Even if he had done the time, if he hadn't, that wasn't enough time. 5 years?
I'm like, I don't even know what to say. That it's just today. Wow. Yeah. No. Okay.
Yeah. I think that helped him develop his hunting strategy.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Okay. So it was poor kids because in his words, no one cares.
An apartment complex is probably because there's a lot of kids running around. Yeah.
And you and I have talked about in 1978, we woke up one day and instead of it being 2-parent families, everybody divorced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are you going to find in poor areas? You're going to find a lot of single mothers who were unprepared to be single mothers.
Working, and
these were women who thought they were going to be housewives, thought they were going to, take care of a husband who worked hard every day, and they're single mothers. Well, you're working, and then when you come home, you've got to be mom, and you got to cook, and you got to clean, and you got to take care of everything. Eyes aren't on the kids. And it's not just mom's eyes not being on the kids. When you go to a poor neighborhood, everybody's in the same situation.
Right.
Everybody's grinding 12, 14, 16 hours a day just to make it. So when the kids are out, nobody knows what's going on to him. So that was kind of...
That was his plan. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he actually saw nobody cares about these kids. And I know I've mentioned this before. I think the murder rate for poor kids was even worse in pre-depression times, like the Victorian times and things like that. Because if you were a poor kid, I don't even think they took police reports for missing and murdered children.
Right.
Because I've seen paperwork, written notes saying she was better off without another child to feed.
Wow.
So I think that's just the way it's always been. Poor kids, they don't care.
It's like they're disposable. Yeah. That's sad.
And he says he prefers African or Mexican American kids because no one will care.
He's just a dick.
In 1988, he goes home to visit his mom in Ohio. So he's been doing this since the beginning of 86. Right. Now it's 88. It's kind of early in 88. He goes home to visit his mom in Ohio. And while he was there, he could not help himself. Nidra Antoinette Ross, who was 9, was reported missing from her aunt's house in Dayton, Ohio at the end of March, 88. Her remains were found in a dry creek bed about 6 months later in the fall of 88 in Marion, Ohio. Ross had been raped and strangled to death, and she was last seen talking to Penton.
That's awful.
A co-worker of her uncle who was visiting Ross's aunt. So he was over hanging out.
Yeah.
At the time in Columbus. When Penton became a suspect in the disappearance of Ross, police seized his van and discovered traces of blood on the floor. They also discovered some of his trophies. Okay, this was the crime that sent him to prison, and this was where he broke some of his own rules.
Right.
His rules involved not just poor children, but children who lived near the interstate.
So he could have a quick getaway?
Quick getaway. I've managed retail stores, high-end retail stores for a good chunk of my life. The most dangerous places were the stores close to the interstate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you were off the interstate.
Never thought about that before.
I've worked at 2 stores close to the interstates. We would have armed robberies. Like, I'm talking, extended magazine clips, face mask, come in, take you out. Or get actually physically mugged in the parking lot as managers because they were hoping we had a bank bag.
Right.
So that's
awful.
That is awful. So the interstate.
I'm just going to stay home for the rest of my life.
I'm just going to live my 10 miles off the interstate on my couple of acres of land.
Sorry, y'all. That was my phone reminding me to take my medication. So when we get off of here,
I'll remind you to take your medication.
Thank you.
Okay. So interstates was a big thing for him. And the other thing was county to county, different jurisdictions.
Yes, yeah.
This was the first time he broke one of his rules, and it was a kid that he hadn't hunted, which is spine chilling.
Yes.
But this was a kid that he was in contact with naturally, organically.
Oh, that's definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank goodness. I mean, not that he did that, and that she suffered probably, but that enabled the police to catch him.
And like that thing I was talking to you about earlier, until you get out of control, these people can hide what they're doing.
Yes. Yes.
They can hide it for years and years and years.
You have to be...
And it's not...
Make your list and follow your list.
I wanted to get caught. No, you didn't want to get caught. You just got so overwhelmed with your urges that you got caught. Okay. And so this is what he went down for in Ohio. 1 count of kidnapping. 1 count of aggravated murder. And his sentence was indefinite sentence for life, minimum 40 years, maximum upon death.
I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. But let's remember when this happened. This was in the 80s. If his minimum sentence is 40 years.
Maybe 20 or less.
He's up for parole shortly.
What?
Yeah, because 40
That's
years.
That's true.
I mean.
Oh my God. Surely not. He was surely not going to get out.
Well, now we're going to go back to Texas.
Okay, let's let Texas handle this shit.
Okay, take note. He was going to be out in possibly 2027.
Okay.
That's just a blank away.
But Texas was like,
Okay, so Meeks was like, no, I've had these images in my head for years.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2003.
You said Meeks. Did you mean Sweet?
Sweet. Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry. Because I'm reading Meeks. Okay. In 2003, summer of 2003, Penton is indicted in Texas.
Good.
He's accused of the slayings of Christy Lynn Meeks of Mesquite, Christy Diane Proctor of Dallas, and Roxanne Hope Reyes of Garland.
So I am rubbing my hands together.
Okay.
Let me know how this turns out.
After this, some other people came forward and said, hey, he tried to kidnap me. Hey, this almost happened to me. And I told you about Tiffany.
Yeah.
So they were able to get a hold of Tiffany and say, hey, let's pull this all together. Let's make a real case against this guy. And so after seeing all the evidence, Sweet tracked Tiffany down in Mississippi. Now, the difference between Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, and the Dallas area of Texas is what? 14-hour drive time?
I don't know. Yeah.
Harold says, That's he tracked her down.
This is a good dude. I like Sweet.
I like Sweet. Yeah.
He's sweet. Good job, Gary. Is Gary still around? Let's get Gary on the show.
Gary's still around.
Let's get Gary on the show.
Okay. After he got everything together, Dave pled guilty.
Okay, I was going to say, did they have to take it to jury?
Nope, they didn't take it to jury. They were this close. They were just they were just an inch from getting to the jury.
So he pled guilty.
He pled guilty. Actually, he and his attorneys came and said, "Hey, I'll plead guilty if you give me life without
the death penalty."
Yeah, just life without means life without parole.
Oh, yeah.
So true life.
He just didn't want the death penalty.
He did not want the death penalty.
Because, I mean, Texas will kill you back, so.
Oh, yeah. Texas might even revive you so they can kill you a second time.
Yeah, I agree. Love y'all, Texas.
I'm not a big death penalty fan, but if you're going to do it right and do it quick. Make it clean. Okay. So, he did plead guilty. He got life without. So if Ohio does parole him, which they could,
he's just in
2 years,
they're just going to pick him up. They're just going
to parole him straight to Texas.
Yes.
I think this is a good idea because, a lot of Texas and Louisiana, Alabama prisons do not have the segregation. Amenities.
The amenities. I thought you were going to say they didn't segregate the sex offenders.
So you wake up every night in a puddle of your own sweat because it's 90 degrees and they don't have air conditioning in your dorm. Just that alone.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ohio's a lot cooler than it is down here.
Yes, and they have to have
probably heaters.
They have to have heaters because it's deadly.
Yeah.
You're not going to die because you're sweaty.
As long as you're drinking water. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that is great news.
Wait, it's still more.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Proctor, not Proctor, David Penton.
Yes.
Penton has said,
the killer.
I have killed 50 kids.
What?
Well, previously
50 kids?
Yes.
Wow.
And you saw how fast he was working in the Dallas area. It was just every couple of months he was killing a kid. He was saying he was kidnapping them and he would keep them with him for days before he'd strangle them and dump them.
Horrific.
He says 50. Investigators believe 30.
Okay. He was just being braggadocious about the whole thing.
Either way, that's
a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids. And there is a reason why I'm not going into too many specifics.
It would be super triggering.
It would be super triggering. And on top of that, my main source was a book called Bogeyman, written by Steve Jackson. Mm-hmm. When that book came out, the siblings of these kids, who would now be like 40.
Yeah.
It crushed them because their parents had kept so much of the details away from them.
They didn't know?
No, because they're like 5, 6 years old. Yeah. Who's going to tell you? And so I didn't talk about specifically what he did.
Right. Okay.
Because it put some of them over the edge.
Yeah.
And normally, I do want to talk more about the victims. Normally, I want to fluff them up bigger and let you see who they were as people. But I do want to keep in mind that these siblings of and the other witnesses were also children because these kids were outside playing together. Mm-hmm. Every situation that except for Tiffany, who got let go, they all had somebody with them.
Wow.
And so they've been carrying guilt and pain, and I'm not going to deal with that. There's only one bad person in this story.
Yes.
All of you did exactly what you could. You're still alive. You're still with us. And anything else that you thought you should have, could have, would have done might have ended up where there were 2 that he had.
Yeah, that's true.
And so
he's a fucking dick.
Yeah.
There's no way to say it. There aren't words harsh enough.
There aren't. And how do we not know about this man?
I don't know.
I mean, he's doing this all through the 80s. You and I were young women in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Don't know.
What the hell?
I don't know.
But I really think that his number is very high because whenever he said he preferred minorities, of the cases that we know about, of the cases he's been convicted of, there were only 2.
Oh.
Everybody else was white.
Wow.
There was one African-American girl, one Mexican-American girl.
Wow.
Reyes.
So there's a whole lot more to this story.
Yeah. So if he's saying he preferred them, then there's got to be at least enough. And there's more. I mean, there were other cases that I saw in the book, but I don't want to say this one, because we don't know.
Yeah.
These cases we know.
Okay.
Thank
you for that.
Now, please cleanse my palate.
Okay. Well, thank you for that terrible, horrible story. I appreciate you doing that. I'm saying it with bittersweet feeling.
Yeah. The biggest thing is, even though I didn't get too much into these victims, I just don't want these victims forgotten.
Right.
And I don't know what was happening.
I want this guy punished.
I want him. There's an old joke about Hitler shoving a pineapple up your ass in hell. I want this to be his daily, regular treatment.
That's what he's going to get. Okay. All right. Okay, so you don't want to talk about this anymore.
Nope. I want fun stuff.
You want fun stuff. Okay, so one of my favorite places to go, and this may stem from my younger years, is Reader's Digest.
Oh, I love a Reader's Digest.
I mean, they're still around, obviously.
I get them downloaded on my Kindle once a month.
I really need to pick up a copy and peruse one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is from Reader's Digest. Let's see. And I have done some of these before, so give me a second in between stories because I'm trying to, rule out whether or not.
Yeah, listeners, I kind of hit her with this. I said, we got to have something funny at the end of this because this is going to hurt. So she's on the fly.
Yes, I'm definitely
she's
on the
giving
fly.
You what you need.
Okay, let's see. The Telltale Trousers.
Oh my gosh.
When an attempted robbery at the Lowe's home improvement store went awry, Milton Hodges fled across the street and jumped a fence right into the Cypress Cove Nudist Resort and Spa. As the Orlando Sentinel pointed out, as one of the only folks wearing clothing, Hodges was easily spotted and police took him away.
Okay, I love that one.
Yeah. Nudist. Okay, Cypress Cove Nudist Resort and Spa. I really want to look up. So that was apparently around Orlando area because the newspaper reported it.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to look up and see if that's still a place.
Probably is. Nudist colonies tend to survive forever.
I feel like nudist colonies are not like good naked, like what you would want to see at a nudist colony.
Oh, no. Everybody I've ever known who was a nudist on the weekends.
Yeah. I don't want to be nude in front of other people.
I have had 40 pounds worth of children. I am like a Glad trash bag that had been overfilled and then emptied. I am not going around.
That's funny. Okay, this one's called P.S. Nobody Move. It's the worst possible time to faint.
Okay.
In the middle of robbing a bank. But that's what happened to a Beaver Creek, Ohio thief. The teller called 911 and asked for medics, but you have to applaud the man's stick-to-itiveness. While the ambulance was en route, the suspect handed a note to the teller demanding all her cash. Yeah, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think I've told this one before, but I'm gonna read it.
Let's do it again.
I'm gonna read it because it involves Louisiana, number one, and
Perfect.
number two, it triggers a little story for me that happened in my life.
Okay.
So this one is Mitchell Deslade walked into a Baton Rouge, Louisiana hotel and asked the clerk for a room. The clerk wasn't a clerk. He was a state trooper, and the hotel was actually a state trooper station.
Oh.
That's when he was arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated.
Can I stop you 1 second?
Sure. That's the end of it.
His name was not Deslade.
It's not Delight because it has an S in it.
Still Delight.
It's still Delight with a...
Yeah.
I thought that... Okay.
The S, originally that name was 2 words.
Delight.
Yeah.
I gotcha. All right. So this reminded me, when I was probably 18 or 19, I worked at a rather large hotel in the Baton Rouge area that I'm not going to mention, although it has been torn down since.
I know what you're talking about.
Yep. I guess I could mention it, the Belmont.
Uh-huh.
And I worked at the front desk, and the hotel was nice, but not really in a nice area.
Yes.
I guess it's the best way that I could describe it.
What back then, whenever it was built, the area was nice.
Yes.
But the area started getting surrounded. And this happens a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I worked at the front desk, And this was back when, you know, you had actual keys that you gave people to the rooms. You didn't have these little scanner cards. Like the credit card machine was, you put the credit card on the little thing and you swipe it back and forth.
Swipe it back and forth.
Yes.
Made the carbon copy and handed them a copy.
Yes. Okay. So hopefully this isn't anticlimactic, but I checked this gentleman in. He went to his room, and about 10 minutes later, he was like calling the front desk.
Okay.
And I was like, yes, sir. What can I do for you? He goes, I just checked in. I said, yes, sir. I checked you in. I remember. He goes, I just found a gun under my pillow.
Oh my goodness.
I was mortified, but even like, okay, so think about that. If you're in that position, they didn't even change the motherfucking sheets.
No, they did not.
I mean, there's a gun there, but shit.
That's where my brain went right away.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, this bed is dirty.
I mean, and I think the guy was like, he still wanted to stay, but like wanted to move to another room, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, I'm going. I'm leaving.
You know what I would have done if I was him?
What?
I would have stayed, but I would have made them come change my mofo sheets because you know that other room has just as much chance of having dirty sheets.
Shitty sheets, yes.
Yeah.
So like I said, it was a nice hotel in its day, but I think as time went on, it deteriorated and they just didn't really hire, and I worked there, they didn't really hire good staff. I worked there. Well,
they pulled them from the neighborhood around.
I did not live in the neighborhood, but I got a job. So yeah, that was back when you could smoke at work too. Oh yeah, I smoked at work.
I remember my mama's desk at her job had the hole cut out to set the ashtray into it. Yes. So that she could sit there and smoke at her desk.
Oh, yeah, man. It was great. All right. Yeah. Anyway, that's it for the funnies. Hopefully that lifted you a little bit.
That did. That very much did.
I never asked you what you were drinking.
Oh, well, shocker, shocker. It's Tito's.
And Tito's?
It's not Tito's and Tito's, though. It is a lot of Tito's because that's a big old cup. Tito's cranberry and lime.
Nice.
Cranberry has started coming out with 0 sugar cranberry juices from Ocean Spray.
I'm not a fan of cranberry, so
I like
tang.
I'm not a sweet person. I like tart and I like very savory. So I'm red pepper or very tart. That's
you
my
want
flavor.
Like Tito's and bacon.
That sounds like a freaking party.
I'm drinking Redneck Riviera.
Yeah.
If John Rich happens to be listening to this podcast,
and you need us to plug you even more.
Hey, John, stop by. Come see us down here in South Louisiana. My husband will cook you some good food.
And my Tito's is produced in Texas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all go to Patreon if you want to help support the show, patreon.com/grits. I appreciate all the different comments we're getting on YouTube and Buzzsprout and Spotify. Please keep it up. We love hearing from y'all, even if it's just to say hello. We are on Facebook. We are on TikTok. We are on YouTube. We're on all the things.
We're on all the things except for X.
Yeah,
well, we're on X, but we don't do anything.
We don't do anything on there.
And let's just say that if you are a new listener and you want to go back and catch all the old inside jokes, $10 a month on Patreon is the level that you need to hit to go back and hear everything else.
And you can start from the beginning. Yes. Good thought process there. Also, there's some benefits to being a Patreon member, and I know I owe y'all some episodes. I got to get on that. We got to do some Grits After Darks. The kids want to do a roast of Tammy.
That was hilarious.
Did you like that episode?
I love that episode. I want to sit in here for one, but I'm afraid I would snort laugh.
That would be fine.
That's not good for though on the audio. That I would. Oh, it's hilarious.
Well,
I have one like your son who is brutal. I have a son like that.
Yes.
And
yes, if y'all want to hear Dalton rig me over the coals, just go listen. Go join Patreon and listen to that. I think it's called Getting to Know Tammy or something like that.
He loves his mama.
Oh, yeah.
But by his words, you'd never know it.
No, he is ruthless. He came by it honest, though. He came by it honest as I glance at Harold.
Yeah.
Okay, Harold, thank you so much for camera switching. Sherri, thank you so much for the story.
You're so welcome.
And we thank y'all so much for being listeners and supporting us. And tell your mom and them to listen and go subscribe on YouTube. And I think that's it.
That's all.
All right, we're going to let Zydeco Mike take us out.